Well, the trek to Trump Tower in full swing today. A long list of potential cabinet members in and out of the president-elect's office. Most noticeably, Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. She resigned, remember, from the DNC in the very beginning of this whole election protest in protest of Hillary Clinton's foreign policy stance and her hesitation to use the phrase radical Islamic terror. Joining me now to discuss, Heather Higgins, Evan Siegfried, and Ford O'Connell. Heather, let me start with you. I thought it was a brilliant move to bring in Tulsi Gabbard. You know, she's gotten a lot of people who admire her on the right, particularly because she's such a hawk when it comes to calling out radical Islamic terrorism.
Trump has had a succession of people that he's appointed who are people who stood up for their beliefs even when it was politically not the safe thing to do. Whether you look at Flynn or Mattis, or you look at Representative Gabbard. And he's also looking at people not based on whether or not they're part of his original team, but whether they have subject matter expertise, and they look out for the little guy, which is basically the reason that he was elected. So she is obviously a very important person for him to be talking to. Whether or not she's actually getting an appointment or just working with the administration in some way, it's typifying the type of person that we are seeing going through those doors.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, Ford, you know, there was some talk. I mean, it would be a long shot or a wild shot for her perhaps to be Secretary of State, but over the weekend, Mitt Romney, he made his trek out to Bedminster, and, you know, people saying he's got a legitimate shot. Donald Trump is seriously considering him for Secretary of State. Again, at least showing that the olive branch is out there, and he's now single-mindedly focused on building this, his government.
Well, absolutely. He's casting a wide net, and he wants to get everyone in there. You have to understand something about Trump, and I hate to harp on this. He's not a traditional politician. He doesn't know a lot of these folks, and while loyalty plays a big role, he's got to find out who can fit some of these key posts. Let me say something else about Gabbard. The scuttlebutt on the street is that she is a favorite of Steve Bannon. She could be conceivably, you know, the UN ambassador, but not only is she hawkish on radical Islamic terror, calling out President Obama, she also is against interventionist policies and also opposes TPP. So she has a very similar worldview, and a lot of people outside the Beltway in Hawaii don't know her. Plus, she's a woman, and she's a Hindu, and I think she'd be a great face of modern America to the rest of the world.
You know, listen, it does sound like, Evan, that it's Donald Trump will bring in probably someone, you know, from the other side of the aisle. Usually that's HUD, right? I mean, that's usually the job that gets the other political party. But how do you see it so far? I think these meetings have been extraordinarily successful. They've been transparent. The public has watched them with intrigue, and I think a large degree of amazement at Donald Trump, to Ford's point, is throwing this large net out there.
Donald Trump is acting presidentially, and he's practicing what he preached at his victory speech. He's trying to unite the country. So somebody like Mitt Romney, who is very critical of him coming into his administration to be Secretary of State, shows Trump is a bigger man and is reaching the level of the office to which he was elected. And somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, he's going to need her as well. If he puts her in even at defense, that would be a big statement. James Mattis is another fantastic pick. However, it would require a waiver from Congress for him
the
to
7 years.
Yes, yeah, because he was an officer.
He hasn't been out of the military more than 7 years. So where do you see it going, Heather? Donald Trump already has made some major appointments. He's certainly ahead of the schedule historically, although I think, you know, there's such an appetite out there for this news to come out sooner rather than later, in part because of who he is, Donald Trump, and what he's promised, also the ambition, the grand ambitions to hit the ground running.
Well, yes, but we're also, it's a bit like a game show, isn't it? We get to see all the contestants parading through.
Got the camera going all the time.
And he's the bachelor, and we get to see who ends up, you know, getting a rose for an appointment. And people like that because they think he's really vetting them, and he's keeping it interesting, but he's also making picks that are really good picks. The nonsense about the transition team having trouble, he is so far ahead of schedule. This is just like his building project, sort of ahead of schedule and under budget. He's really cranking them out, and he's got certain themes that we're seeing. So I wouldn't actually be surprised if Gabbard or someone like that wound up at the Office of Veterans Affairs, which is a sort of mini Obamacare problem, right? What happens when government controls that?
I think there's another
aspect
that's going on in meeting with Tulsi Gabbard, in that even if he doesn't pick her, he's elevated her among Democrats. Remember, she famously resigned from the DNC over the way they had basically rigged it against Bernie. And it also gives him a partner in the House, and it also heightens the disarray among Democrats. Look at them. They're in the middle of a leadership fight and an all-out civil war within the party. It's something very smart politically for Trump to do.
And there's one other point, if I might. The whole media meme, and particularly what's animating some of the protests and the poor cast at Hamilton, which really is a superlative show, but these people live in a bubble, and they've believed what they've been told, that this is just a racist, sexist, misogynist, all the rest of it. Every one of these things shows that he is not that. It is undermining the memes of the left with strong visuals and strong signals.
Real quick,
Heather, the more they continue to dump on Trump, the more likely he is to succeed. And I like the fact that he's acting like an independent and taking a statesman's approach, because if he lays the right foundation, America's going to succeed.
Yeah, I got to tell you, too, also, Vice President-elect Pence has been enormous as well. I love his steadiness and the way he reacted to the Hamilton situation. Guys, thank you very much. We've got breaking news.